Stand on any street corner in London today, and you'll hear a dozen languages in as many minutes. With nearly 9 million people packed together, it is one of the most crowded, linguistically diverse places on Earth. But if you rewind the clock 2,000 years, you'd find a landscape of muddy, tidal marshland. It was a landscape almost entirely uninhabited and strategically useless to everyone, until the Romans arrived. In 43 AD, 4 Roman legions pushed inland from the coast. They needed a secure way to move supplies across the Thames to the continent. They hunted for the river's lowest, narrowest crossing point, a place where they could actually construct a bridge. The Romans built here purely for logistics, a military choke point designed to keep legions moving and supplies flowing. The trading hub that followed was a byproduct of that engineering. Success was brief. 17 years after the city was founded, Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe retaliated against Roman occupation. Her army marched in, slaughtered the residents, and burned the entire settlement to the ground. We know exactly how thorough she was. If you dig beneath the modern streets today, archaeologists routinely hit a thick, dark band of red ash, the physical remains of the first London. The Romans refused to abandon the site. Instead, they cleared the ash and rebuilt the city significantly larger, wrapping the new perimeter in a massive defensive wall. Parts of that exact barrier are still standing right now. Within its first century, the city had established a pattern. It would use its own wreckage as the foundation to expand, replacing a burned settlement with a fortified city. By 410 AD, the Roman Empire was crumbling and pulled its legions out of Britain. Without that military backing, Londinium's entire economy flatlined. A thriving city of 50,000 people dwindled to a few hundred scavengers living inside a decaying fortress. When Saxon farmers eventually arrived, they took one look at the towering Roman masonry and assumed it was the work of giants. They actively avoided it, deciding to build a new, unfortified trading village a mile west called Londinium. That lack of a wall proved disastrous. Starting in the late 8th century, Norse raiders began sailing in force up the Thames, repeatedly sacking the exposed wooden settlement. King Alfred the Great realized the Saxons couldn't defend an open village. He ordered his people to abandon Londinium entirely and retreat behind the safety of the 400-year-old Roman walls. An existential military threat forced a scattered population to consolidate. By seeking shelter, they permanently shifted the geographic center of the city right back to its original Roman footprint. 4 centuries later, the city faced a completely different kind of invader. In 1348, ships carrying infected fleas docked at the port. Within 2 years, the Black Death had emptied half of London into mass graves outside the city walls. With the population halved, the feudal system began cracking. Landowners were suddenly desperate for anyone who could plow a field or forge a blade, and the survivors realized they could name their price. This sudden leverage allowed working-class guilds to seize control of local trade, pulling political influence away from the crown and into the city's market stalls. This newly wealthy merchant class needed room to grow. They got it in the 1530s, when Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church and dissolved London's monasteries, instantly dumping huge tracts of prime real estate onto the open market. Aristocrats and merchants aggressively bought up the plots. They densely packed the streets with unregulated overhanging houses made of timber, dried straw, and reeds. London's rapid economic recovery and physical expansion had successfully repopulated the capital, but it also engineered a highly flammable urban maze that was waiting for a single stray spark. That spark arrived in a bakery on Pudding Lane on September 2, 1666. Driven by strong winds and dry conditions, the Great Fire consumed 85% of the walled city over 4 days. The immediate legislative reaction to the ash was absolute. Parliament passed strict new building codes that explicitly outlawed wood and thatch, requiring all new structures to be built from fire-resistant brick and stone. This cleared the slate for architects like Christopher Wren to entirely reinvent the skyline, crowning the new stone city with the massive dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. The fire violently purged the cramped medieval layout. By destroying the old wooden capital, it forced London to mature into a modernized, resilient city capable of supporting an expanding global empire. Over the 19th century, London exploded into a massive industrial engine. The population swelled past 6 million, fueled by extreme Victorian wealth and shadowed by severe, crowded poverty. Then came the aerial bombardments of the Second World War. Between 1940 and 1941, the Blitz leveled entire neighborhoods, destroying or damaging 1 million buildings across the capital. Yet, amidst this widespread ruin, the city refused to break. St. Paul's Cathedral survived, its dome standing perfectly intact against the heavy smoke. Post-war London was a grim place. The city was bankrupt, physically exhausted, and choked by deadly industrial coal smoke that peaked with the lethal Great Smog of 1952. London survived the bombs of the 20th century, but it was left structurally shattered and lacked the workforce it needed to clear the rubble. To rebuild the capital and staff the new welfare state, the government looked overseas, inviting workers from its former colonies to fill the massive labor shortage. This initiated a vital demographic rescue mission, beginning with the arrival of the Windrush generation from the Caribbean in 1948. This wave of new citizens sparked a sudden cultural explosion. They revived the exhausted streets, turning London into the young, vibrant, and swinging capital of the 1960s. Today, those ancient Roman walls share space with a towering glass and steel skyline built by the same waves of global immigration and international finance. After 2,000 years of fire, plague, and bombardment, London exists as a living testament to the power of the reset. Each catastrophe has served to clear the ground, making way for the next wave of people to reimagine the city entirely.